Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm Dan McGee. Welcome to the garage. So we have a special guest in the studio today. It's Tracy Rosenstiehl. He is a up and coming actor from the Chicago area, and right now he's doing a play. What can you tell us about the play?
The production is Theater 47. Theater 47 is based in Park Forest, Illinois, south suburbs of Chicago. John L. Ruffin is the owner of Theater 47. He is the writer and the director of the production that I was cast to play in called Imitation of Life. Imitation of Life is a story that was written in the early 1930s. So it originated as a novel. It was produced into a film not once but twice. In 1934, a version of Imitation of Life starring Claudette Colbert made the big screen. And then in the late 1950s, I think 1959, the story was brought to film a second time, kind of in an updated fashion, and that film stars Lana Turner. So the version that we're telling, the story that we're telling, is that original mid 30s, that 1934 story, with a twist. It's based in Chicago, and it's a musical adaptation of the story. So, in addition to the dramatic aspects of Imitation of Life, telling that story, it's also infused with dance sequences, music, numbers, and just a high level of energy entertainment. The thread of the Chicago aspect of the story is involving a club owner who is part of the Al Capone gang in Chicago of those early 1930s. So the character that I was uh, cast to play is Paul Sabachi Sr. He's the owner of the Rosebud and has scenes involving the performances at the Rosebud and involved in very much in the first act of the play. I also have a small role in Act Two because in Act Two we tell the story of Paul Sabachi's wife Lena, who becomes the proprietor of Lena's Records. It's basically a record shop set in the early 1940s. So the storyline has an arc between basically the early to mid 1930s all the way into the early to mid 1940s, telling the story of the principals in the show, B. Pulliam and Delilah Johnson, and then ultimately the story of Delilah's daughter Paola. Piola is the thread that's the entire acts one and two. So that's the main overall story. But the part that I play and the sequencing of the first act definitely has the club environment, the entertainment, and then that carries over into Act Two. So the play runs just over 2 hours. There's about a 15 to 20-minute intermission. And we do two shows on Saturday. We have an afternoon matinee at 3. We have a evening show at 7:30 on Saturday. And then we also have a Sunday matinee a little bit later at 4 p.m. We had our first show on February 25th, and we will carry on these next few weeks all the way out till April 2nd.
Wow, that's pretty awesome actually. So now I know you've been doing a lot of TV.
Yes.
So what can you tell me is the main difference between doing TV and then doing live theater?
Yeah, so that's the major difference. When you're doing television work, you're you have the luxury of being able to run your lines do the scene, and then cut, reset, and then you get a chance to do it a second time, a third time. You continually get to run them until the director feels like he or she has a sequence that will be workable. Then then we're talking about changing camera angles, turnarounds, going in closer. It's all of those technical details. That's why production for television and film, it's very tedious because you're continually shooting the scene from different angles, looking for a different, performance, a different look. And then that one scene that might be just a few seconds, you could be working on that scene for hours. Live theater is just that. You have one shot. You go and do your lines, you follow your blocks, and if you flub it, you try to recover it. If your scene partner flubs it, you got to sort of carry that load, create some sort of an ad lib that will get them back on point. And the bottom line is you're doing it in front of a live audience. It's like two completely different worlds. It's amazing how different they can be. But to me, the theater is like if you had to boil it all down and say, okay, where is the true acting happening? To me, that theater moment is there's nothing like it. I'll never forget the feeling that I had of going onto that stage for the first time. You step out, the lights can't be any brighter, and you have to perform something that you've been practicing for weeks on end and somehow make sure that you have everything on point, not only in what you're saying, how you're saying it, how you're physically related to your scene partner, knowing your timing, their timing, all of those things are in sync. And it's just a tremendous workload to get to that moment and then be able to consistently maintain that. I've performed my role now 9 separate times over the past 3 weeks. And we have at this point another 9 performances over the next 3 weeks. It's a 6-week performance commitment, 18 shows in total.
So how much practice goes into it before like the first show?
Yeah, so we started to rehearse, I would say, the second full week of January. And that first week was interesting because I was originally cast as a character that ended up being edited out of the script. So the first week, I played a character that eventually is nowhere to be found in the final product. So the second week was the week I was assigned to Paul Sabacci Sr. And that Monday night was rough because I had never studied his character, and automatically the coaches, the people running lines were like, come on, you got to get this. I had never even read it before. So, lesson learned, when you get a script, read the whole script. You never know what could transpire. And it's really just something that you just have to live the experience. I don't think there's a way where you said, okay, I know I need to read the whole script. I need to do this or that. There's elements to the experience where you just have to you just have to absorb what actually has happened and then kind of take it from there. So I spent weeks working on Paul's character. I spent time with several different cast members who double as coaches. So the more experienced actors in John's company tend to be the ones that run lines with you, talk about character development, and really help you to get that brought up to speed so that you're able to perform it. This took weeks. It was 30 days of rehearsal, I would say, from that mid-January all the way leading up to that first performance on February 25th. And, originally the rehearsals were kind of like 7 p.m. until 10:30ish. And then on Hell Week, the week of the opening, from Monday night till Thursday night, we were going at it, 7 p.m. all the way past midnight. It was going to 1 in the morning. It was intense. I'm getting home at like 2 a.m. It was like, and it wasn't just one night. It was that, like, that whole week was like that. And then after all of that, you got the one day off on Friday to try to recover. And then Saturday was that opener. And it was just incredible. The nervous tension. It was really, really just intense. Very, very intense.
So so now doing the live stage, do you think that that's going to help you in your TV now, or is it so different that it might not make a difference?
Yeah. So as we were working tonight on a self-tape submission, basically an audition that we've recorded for submission, I could feel how different it was to be able to present lines and also sort of have body language in sync in terms of eye contact, having that in sync. Because of the theater experience, I now have that dialed in so much better than before. It's really stepping up my game to say, okay, now that I've performed a speaking role on stage, now I can draw that experience in and make that tie into subsequent work. So everything that I'm doing in an effort to land a speaking role, to be a lead actor, a support actor, having those qualities uh, versus where I was before. I feel like it's a very different experience now and going forward, most definitely.
So yeah, I working with you tonight on your what did you call it?
So they're self tapes.
Oh,
Basically,
your self
yeah,
tape.
in this day and age, what we're finding is that it's sort of rare to actually go somewhere and audition live. It's really now what they're looking for is you're creating a product to submit, and they're just going to review it. So now we're, with technology being what it is, and because of what we've been into with the throes of the pandemic, it's that combination where people are saying, hey, we can do submissions, and you could be anywhere in the country and you could send in a submission via self tape. And then at that point, the director is looking it over, and if they like what they see, then they're going to say, okay, we're going to call you in and take that next step. It might be another read. You might read with another actor. You may end up traveling somewhere for this. They might want to see you in person. But that initial impression is now a recorded product. So all of a sudden, it's a new dynamic where you're having to create this audition tape and then make that your submission, and versus going somewhere and doing it live. The irony of that was when I did my audition for the theater, I actually did a live audition, and this was great. New Year's resolution: get a speaking role, land a speaking role. John Ruffin reached out to me Sunday night, January 1st, 2023. And on January 3rd, that Tuesday afternoon, I went to his theater in Park Forest, got on that stage, and did a cold read for one of the characters in the play. And that cold read enabled me to be selected for the production and to have my very first speaking role.
So now that you've done the live theater, do you find that you're going to continue to go out for those roles, or do you think this is just a one-time thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I got to tell you, the work is really, really challenging. So it's sort of a balance of trying to figure out, okay, is it financially viable to go down that path and to continue in that way, or do you just sort of stay open to opportunities that might be more lucrative? And what I'm finding is that a lot of the roles that are available that I'm submitting to, payments are not even necessarily upfront told. Like they'll say your payments are deferred. I guess it's really a matter of how well is the end product received, and how does that break out into payments and this sort of thing. So that the financial aspects of it are all very, very murky. You don't necessarily know what the sum of your work is going to amount to. In other situations, it might be more clearly stated. Like the theater was very much a clearly stated, you will be paid weekly for each of the live performances. I did not get paid to rehearse. I did not get any sort of compensation until we hit the stage. So 30 days of rehearsal was, I had to put that in to get to the point where I could perform the show and then get paid. And it's challenging because it's compensation, it's not, or at least it hasn't been lucrative up until this time. So there's many, many people that are attempting to do this, and on the good faith that somehow they're going to break through into something very lucrative. And that's been, for me, a pursuit since I started this back in 2018, working, background, and which I have done and continue to do to this day.
Well, it sounds great. And, all of us that know you are really proud of you, and you're really putting in the work. So,
Yeah. Well, it's really cool. I love the fact that if I go and see somebody that, somebody that knows me, maybe they knew me in another context. They might have worked with me. They might have ran with me. Having been in the running community since, 2012, and having those contacts through the years, and it kind of flipped. All of a sudden, it instead of marathon runner, it turned into, hey, movie star. And that became my calling card. And I'm good with it. I'm happy with it because I think it's that self-actualization.
well, it's fun reinventing yourself, isn't it?
And it is. So this month, I will be exiting my mid 50s. So I turn 57 and a half at the end of the month. And then I kind of look at that and say, okay, from that point forward, you're now in your late 50s. So I've had this 5-year period pretty much of what I would describe as my mid 50s as an actor. It started just with that first opportunity with Chicago Med back in January 3rd of 2018. I mean, technically, I was still in my early 50s when I did that, but it carried through, weathering the pandemic in the process, and now to a point where I can say I'm going to leave my mid 50s as a true working actor, having landed this role in theater and being able to perform it, before the, March 30th, and such that it's a good feeling. It definitely is.
All right, I think we'll end it there. And good luck with everything.
Thank
and
you.
We'll
Always a pleasure to visit the garage.
we'll see you on a big screen someday.
We can only hope.